Hey guys, Brandon here from Game Trailers. I'm here with Sven from Larian Studios. First of all, congratulations on your obviously soon-to-be successful Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's been going very well. It's much faster than expected.
So I just wondered, as far as like, how has Kickstarter treated you guys? I mean, you obviously were very successful with the first game. Did you know, even before the first game was released or before the first Kickstarter was released, that you were going to be doing a Kickstarter for the sequel, or has this kind of evolved as you guys have been moving along development?
Originally, actually, we thought of not going to Kickstarter, and then we changed our mind because we started thinking about it. There was this thing like, okay, if you did the Kickstarter before, why would you go back to Kickstarter to have a successful game? Then we started talking actually to Brian Fargo, who convinced us. He told us that, he said, like, you have to think of it like a restaurant. You have a very successful restaurant, and all the restaurants around it are going to be successful also because people come to the successful restaurant and they try out other things. He called it the halo effect. And so then we said, okay, well, let's try it out. And so we are coming to Kickstarter with a game that is already funded by ourselves, but on which there's a lot of extra things that could be done. And so that's basically the pitch that we proposed to our backers, and we were quite surprised by how many of them went so fast in backing. It was backed in less than 12 hours.
Yeah, and I think one of the concerns people have with Kickstarter is, I'm seeing screenshots here. I don't really see a finished game. I love the people that are working on this, but I don't know if I have 100% confidence that I'm going to see the final product. I assure you guys, I just saw him play one of probably the longest PAX demos I've ever seen in my life. Like, my head is burning of just all of the things, that I've already in this game, is not going to be coming out for a while. How much is too much? I mean, you have so many different dialogue options, you have so many different options, you have so many ways you can split up the 4 characters. 4 characters is a big deal, up from 2 from the last game. How do you know when too much is too much?
Well, what we're trying to make actually is an RPG system, like you would have a rule book for a pen and paper game and bring it to your computer. It's why we're putting so much effort in the multiplayer that you can play in split screen, because essentially when you're playing a pen and paper game, you're playing it with friends. So we're trying to translate that into a computer game, and then it becomes very important to have a lot of options, because each player that is playing needs to be special, right? So that's why we have all those origin stories going on. And I might not like you very much, so I want to be able to compete with you. So that's also one of the reasons we put the competitive in there. Obviously you can still play cooperatively, because the entire party wants to go somewhere. So we're essentially just trying to translate what we love by playing on tabletop games and pen and paper games into a computer game, and then it's never too much.
Is this stuff that you were thinking of maybe doing in the first game and it was just too much of an ambition? Did you push that maybe to a potential sequel early on, or did you kind of start back from the drawing board when you were working on Original Sin 2?
This was very much the idea all along, so that so we have 3 games right now. So we have Original Sin, the first one that was released. Then we had the Original Sin, the Enhanced Edition, which is coming out in October. We call that version 2 of the rule set, version 2 of the engine. And this is Original Sin 2. Even if it looks slick because it's running on engine 2 right now, it is going to become engine 3 and rule set 3. So it's basically the next evolutionary step, but there's still like many months of development to go. And so we're building on top of what we had, pretty much like what BioWare did back in the days when they made Baldur's Gate 2 and Icewind Dale. It was all built on the previous engines, the Divinity engine.
And it looks really good. I mean, it's a very, very pretty RPG. What kind of tricks, just from a visual perspective, what were you able to do in this game that you weren't able to do before in the previous engine?
Because we had so much success with the first Original Sin, we've been able to expand tremendously on the amount of people that are working on the artwork. So basically the team is almost double the size that made Original Sin. And so that has allowed us to take much more time for doing the artwork. And it all looks a lot better as a result of that.
So this is a time sink. This is a deep, deep, long game. Time sink in a good way. And I didn't get a chance to play through the first game. I might have to play this, man. I really got bit today, I'm telling you. Is this, am I going to lose out on some things jumping right into the sequel story-wise? Is it a concern of yours to reintroduce a whole new audience to the world?
No, you'll be able to jump in right away. This is set several hundred years after the first one. So there's a link, because in the first one you were hunting, you were a source hunter. Here you're a source user. And it's fairly dark if you want to. I've showed you a couple of dark things.
That's like all you were doing, man. You were killing people and stealing their souls.
It demos very easily. It's always harder to play the good guy, but I expect a lot of people will actually go for the good guys.
And it seems like, do you think? The PvP is really fun, and obviously people love seeing people troll other people when they're streaming or watching gameplay on the internet. I mean, that's obviously going to maybe slow your progression down, right? If you spend a lot of time infighting, you might take you a much longer time to get to your eventual goal.
Well, what we saw is people who are playing cooperatively and who stuck together are typically friends. They're not going to do this with a stranger because it's like a long RPG and a very big adventure. But what we saw is when they were playing cooperatively, they were already goofing around all the time, like, I did this, and they said, no man, why did you have to go do that? I want to do this. And so we said, okay, let's expand upon that, and so give them even more options of doing that, all the while giving them option of making up again and going back together and giving them motivation to do that. And so the net result of that is that you get a very dynamic experience in which you're essentially having a lot of fun, which is the main goal of it, of course.
And I noticed, yeah, you were doing some things that weren't necessarily like, killing someone. You like disguised a health potion as a poison potion and just kind of like nonchalantly handed it off to one of your friends who then used it later. So
smile moment, right?
Yeah. So what are the big things? I mean, there's so much stuff going on in the sequel. I mean, if you just had like 60 seconds just to kind of grab someone that was totally unfamiliar with the series, was unfamiliar with the Kickstarter campaign and the huge community that you've built and the success you had with the first game, what do you think is the biggest sell for Original Sin 2?
Really simple. This is like a pen and paper RPG, but you don't need a dungeon master for it because the dungeon master is your computer already, and you can play it with lots of friends, but you can equally play it on your own, and it's quite a lot of fun in both modes.
I mean, I don't know if I'm being too forward. I think you're being a damn fool if you don't play this with your friends. I mean, that's the main draw here. Is I have at least one, maybe even three, and 4 players,
yeah, 4 players.
On console.
No, this is only for PC Original Sin 2,
okay.
So we're focusing on that. We don't want to be focused on porting right now because
okay.
it's very ambitious, it's very complex, and then once that is done, we'll see if we are going to port it to other platforms.
But Original Sin 1, the updated version, will be available on consoles.
Yeah, it's coming for PS4 and Xbox One, and it should be out actually in a couple of months.
So you got a lot of stuff going on. You're gonna have a busy year.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, man.
very, very busy.
Have a good PAX.